This meeting is being recorded.
Greetings, friends, and welcome to our final lecture and our introduction to African religion. The first two in this series, this is a 4-part lecture series. The first two dealt with the early African Christian thought arising out of Egypt and Nubia, and its influence in other parts of the world. Those were the first two. And those first two lectures were based on the book written by Old Testament, should I say, lecturer and expert in early Christianity, Thomas Oden, professor from Yale University. And then we have we scheduled two more lectures for Black History Month, and those were Introduction to African Religions, Part 1 and 2. We already covered Part 1. If you're interested in receiving Part 1, just feel free to get in contact with me. We were not able to get the second lecture out during Black History Month because each of those scheduled dates that we had for the lecture, there was severe weather, so we were not able to record these lectures. And so the last two lectures are coming to you a little bit late, but I know that you'll benefit from it. So we're talking about the introduction to African religion. There's so much misunderstanding of African religion. We talked about on our last lecture how Europeans have demonized African religion as devil worship, as uncivilized, as savagery. And so our contention is that African religion has as much to contribute to building a better world and a civilization as ancient Judaism. One of the things that we pointed out is that Africans worship a creator, one in whom they believe to be the creator of the universe. Very similar to the other Abrahamic traditions. And in believing in the supreme creator, they also believe that there are other spirits that some would refer to as gods. And I just want to point this out. Michael Heiser, who recently passed away, Hebrew scholar, wrote a book called The Unseen Realm. And the ideas, the theology that he's bringing out in that volume shows that the ancient Hebrews had a very similar understanding. I'm not saying it's the same, but very similar. That they were not necessarily monotheistic in the way that the Europeans have described ancient Judaism, but rather that they were monolatrous. In other words, they believed that there were other subordinate spirits and gods, but they believed that there was the Most High God. You find that expression in the Hebrew Bible, the Most High God. There's a song that Miriam, the sister of Moses, sang after the Exodus and after the Red Sea encounter. When they crossed over the Red Sea, Miriam sang a song, "Who is like unto thee, O Lord among the gods. So in that very statement, they're acknowledging that there are other spirits in the world. And so it is with African religions. There's the superior, and let me just state this: there's no, I had to repeat this. There's no one African religion. Let's not misunderstand that reality. Africa is a place with thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of cultures and religions. I'm reminded of when I was in undergrad school, there was an African from Kenya and an African from Zimbabwe talking in the mailroom, and they were speaking in English. And one of the European students walked up to them and said, "Why are you all talking in English when you're both from Africa?" Not realizing that even within a country such as Kenya, there are different languages. Everyone doesn't speak the same language. So there's a tendency to lump Africa in as all just lump everything in one bag with Africa. But John S. Mbiti, in his book, The Introduction to African Religion, he points out that what he's describing is simply the areas what Africans hold in common in their religious practices. But there are many variations concerning this. So the Africans, what is commonly believed is that there is a supreme creator. And all creation comes from the Most High God, or the superior God, the supreme God. And beneath that God, there are, on one side, there are nature gods. And then on the other side, beneath that supreme God, there are there are human ancestors on the other side of that. They do believe in the hereafter, and it is commonly believed that the ancestral realm exists in a similar place, in the same proximity to the natural realm. They believe that it could not be that the world that our ancestors upon death would go to, would reside, should I say. They would not go to a place that is unfamiliar, but rather a place that is familiar. And so there are mountains, there are rocks, there's trees, there's rivers, there's streams, there are paths, there are buildings, there are houses, exist in the same location, but in a different realm. And so they believe that the ancestors are very close to their families. So there are nature gods, and these nature gods live in trees, they live in lakes, they live in ponds. They live in fields, they live in rivers. And so, and beneath those gods, there's the human being. And so, when the African religion is exercised, this is the understanding. This is the foundational understanding of deity. So there are benefits, and I want to talk about this first. There are advantages and disadvantages, according to John S. Mbiti, who is a Kenyan theologian. Once again, you have to get this. It's an easy read. John S. Mbiti, Introduction to African Religion. And he even acknowledges in his book that the Negro spirituals, that the that our enslaved African ancestors here in America developed, the music that they developed on the plantation, grew out of African religion. He acknowledges that in this book. And so, what I want to point out first of all is that there are advantages and disadvantages from Professor Mbiti's perspective. Okay, all right. The first one is that there are no sacred scriptures, such as in Islam or Christianity, no holy books. And there are advantages and disadvantages of this, according to Professor Mbiti. He said, because there are no holy books, they're able to more freely move with the times. They're able to adapt to present situations. Not only that, but there are no religious controversies. There's liberty. There's no accusations of heresy or apostasy, such as you find in Christianity and Islam. So that's the advantage. They're able to change and adapt because there's no ancient record. And then there are disadvantages. The disadvantages are that there are imprecise details of the past, such as 500 years ago, because as society changes, the Africans make adjustments as far as their religious practices are concerned, and many of those practices may be left behind or forgotten about. And there's no record to what the religion looked like 500 years ago. There's no record of how they settled differences through religious practice generations ago. They cannot speak of purity or practice because of the lack of a record. Ideas and practices through religious are forgotten about. But this is one of the areas where, although there's no record, written record, thousands of years ago, what Africans do have is religious objects, or religious shrines, built by ancestors or created by ancestors, generations, hundreds of years ago, that they're able to use as a reference point to what was practiced in the past. But there are no holy books, and so there are advantages and disadvantages. All right. So John S. Mbiti in the book, as I talked about earlier, he goes after wrong ideas concerning African religion. There are many wrong ideas. The first wrong idea is that African religion is ancestor worship. We talked about this in our last lecture. Africans do not worship their ancestors. And the idea is that God is so high, he is so holy, he is so powerful, he is so mighty. Who am I to approach him directly? That it is more so an act of humility that I will approach God through my ancestors. I talked to, we did an interview with a Catholic theologian who stated that if we as Christians believe that people still live after they die, then why can't we talk to them and say to them, because in the Catholic tradition, they ask the saints to pray for them. The same idea. God is so holy. I'm going to ask my ancestors are so they're functioning in the spiritual realm. So I ask them to pray for me. Mary, pray for us. But we do not typically call. I know that there's a lot of anti-Catholic sentiment, but we do not say that Catholicism is ancestor worship because of that. And so they believe that ancestors continue to exist and they show interest in the affairs of their families. And so this ancestor worship involves uh, the building of shrines and placing food and drink in the shrines, similar to the pyramids of Egypt. They invoke the names of their ancestors in their prayers, but they view this as a way of honoring and not forgetting them. I heard one African theologian say that the way that they honor their ancestors is consistent with the fifth commandment in the Hebrew Bible, which says, "Honor thy father and thy mother," and this is their way of honoring them. But John S. Mbiti says that none of these things suggest that they are actually worshiping their ancestors. The second wrong idea is that African religion is superstition. And he goes on to define what superstition is. And he simply said superstition is unfounded fears based on events and circumstances that have happened in the past. And he says that every religion has superstition. Never do we hear anyone referring to Islam or Christianity as superstition. And he says that what is often referred to as superstition is based on deep reflection and a long history and experiences that have happened over and over again. And so this is so he's pushing back on the notion that it is, and he's coming from a Christian perspective. That's one of the criticisms of John S. Mbiti. He's coming from a Christian perspective, but he's defending African religions because African religion has there's much to be learned. Just as in every religion has something to contribute based on their experiences, their background, how they have encountered difficulties and challenges in the world that they live in, based on their experiences. The wisdom that is developed through those religions has something to offer. And he's arguing that African religion has been demonized and there's been a failure by the non-African, by the European, that has so demonized African religion and misrepresented it that they have missed out on a lot of the wisdom that is coming from African religion. Then he says that those who describe African religion as animism or paganism. He says animism is the idea that objects and natural phenomena are inhabited by spirits or souls. And that goes to what we were talking about, how the African religion believes that that certain gods occupy trees, ponds, rocks. But he says that while that is true, that this is only a small part of the what is commonly held, the beliefs that are commonly held among Africans. He says we cannot limit or confine the religion based on things that Europeans don't understand or cannot fully comprehend. And so the tendency is to only focus on those things that one cannot comprehend or that may appear strange and define the religion by that one particular concept. He says it is unfair and it is a wrong-headed way of viewing African religion. Then he talks about how African religion is considered paganism. That's one that the European love to throw around. Paganism when it comes to religious practices of those in Africa and in Asia, and also the Native American as well. Native Americans worship the Great Spirit, which is a similar concept of the Creator in the Hebrew Bible. But because there are aspects that they do not understand, they simply label it as paganism. And he says that paganism is a derogatory term that is often utilized for those who are not within the Abrahamic traditions. It is a way to suggest that it is evil or demonic. But he says that what is what is so unfair and what is so inconsistent about this is that there are people in Europe who are completely irreligious, uh, who do not worship or believe in any deity, and they're not referred to as being pagan. So he says that this is a wrong-headed and an inconsistent uh, way of viewing African religion. Uh, Another label that he says that is so often placed upon African religion is that it is magic or fetishism. And he says that there is magic and sorcery within African religion. They believe that there's energy in the world, that certain people have the gift to tap into. And sometimes it is used for evil, and sometimes it is used for good. Uh, I heard one scholar, theologian, who said that in the scenario of Moses and Aaron in the court of Pharaoh, he says that when Pharaoh threw down his rod, it became a snake, and when Moses and Aaron threw down their rod, it became a snake. And he says, well, what was the difference between the one and the other? When Pharaoh servants, priests throw down their rods and it becomes a snake, you call that magic. But we do not say the same thing when Moses and Aaron do the same. And I thought that was a very, very important point to make. That there's much that happens even within the Christian religion that can come across as magic and can come across as something that is very strange and mysterious and that we cannot understand. Uh, and then the idea of fetishism, that is the belief in charms. It's a concept that came from Portuguese traders describing charms that were worn by Africans on the West Coast. And so they said that the religion is fetishism because they believe that icons and religious symbols have significance. He says that is true. They believe that icons and symbols and objects that are worn have significance, but one cannot limit or define the whole religion as fetishism because these religious practices are embraced. Uh, and so, as we transition from uh, John S. Mbiti's defense of African religion, I want to focus now, as we conclude, on uh, African religion as practiced within their religious ceremonies, through their rituals and through their festivals. Uh, there are many rituals and rites of passage. He talks about rites of passage. I won't get into that here, but rites of passage, young men, young women, transitional periods. There are uh, certain rituals that they engage in through rites of passage, and priests, uh, medicine men, uh, elders lead out in these activities. These are communal events that take place within the community to celebrate a transition from one stage of life to another. For example, from going from a young man, a boy to a man, or a girl to a woman, marriage ceremonies as rites of passage. These are all religious ceremonies within African religions. But I want to focus in on uh, first among the rituals and festivals at the agricultural rituals. And these agricultural rituals involve farming. They engage in these rituals before they begin farming, as they begin to engage in the keeping of animals, hunting season, uh, fishing. All of these, there are special rituals involved. Uh, Farming, uh, rain making rituals are involved when it comes to farming because so much depends on the rain when it comes to crops. And so I'm reminded of the Native American rain dance. And these dances are prayers. These are rain dances are prayers so that uh, the crops will be watered as a result of divine intervention. And these rainmakers, according to Professor Mbiti, they are trained in weather, and they're believed to hold be able to hold secrets of weather. Uh, these rainmakers are what you would call in a modern day meteorologists with a religious emphasis today. And so they're able to time weather. Sometimes when they are praying for the rain or they engage in rituals that the rain will come down, they understand when it's time for the rain to occur. Uh, in the Hebrew Bible, it talks about the time of the latter rain, praying during the time of the latter rain. So this is not a strange concept to take the time out in the calendar year to pray for rain for the crops and to engage in rituals that are meaningful to the people. Uh, Sometimes these rainmakers, not only do they pray for the rain and engage in rituals for rainmaking, but they also, when there's too much rain, they engage in rituals so that the rain will stop. And these rainmakers hold the role of priests. Well, you have the rainmakers, and then you have, pardon me, those who are considered priests of nature as well. And sometimes the rainmakers are also those priests of nature. So these agricultural rituals would occur when there are new fields being cleared to remove danger. It's just very similar to uh, how those within the what we call the monotheistic traditions, the world religions prayed for danger, prayed that they might be protected from danger. So when new fields are entered, bushes and forests are cleared. They engage in rituals to remove danger, to remove dangerous situations. They believe there are innumerable spirits occupying trees and forests. And just so you know, the same thing is we find the same thing in the New Testament, where the ancient Jewish people, the Israelites, believed that demons occupied the seas, and this is why the seas were so turbulent. So that needs to be understood, that these are not strange concepts. These are universal concepts that are found in cultures, uh, uh, even within cultures that have historically embraced the Abrahamic traditions. So, so there are rituals that they engage in to send away spirits, to remove any dangerous or spirits that will cause any type of harm while they are entering into the new field of for farming. They engage in rituals when it comes to planting seeds. The seeds will be protected from danger. There are rituals for weeding time, for first fruits, also to take away danger, because the first fruits is that concept is in the Old Testament, is in the Hebrew Bible as well. If you're not confessional, uh, there was the first fruits celebration, and that is associated with the Passover season. And so the first fruits is the end of the cultivation season, and this was a holy time, a sacred time, and they engaged in rituals where they would partake of the first of the fruits and the crops. And in these rituals they would engage in practices and in prayers to take away danger, as to begin to get into the harvest season, to take away the bitterness from the food that they will be able to safely eat. And so there are tasting rituals, and these tasting rituals are designed to bless the remainder of the harvest, to bless the first fruits and the remaining harvest, that they may be ritually clean for consumption. It's a very similar concept in the Hebrew Bible and in the annual festivals in the Hebrew religion. So in these harvest rituals, they would dance, they relax, and they would rest and eat, and they would give it time for the fields to rest. We also find this in the Hebrew Bible as well, where the land was supposed to rest. Of course, that's every 7 years, but you get the picture. The idea is that they believed that the time had come for the land to have a period of rest. So they would take the time also as a community to relax and rest along with the land, as well as dancing and celebration as well. And so that's the harvest rituals. There were also stock keeping rituals, talking about the keeping of animals. There was killing involved, killing of animals, or should I say sacrificing, eating, milking of animals, selling and buying animals, bloodletting, drinking. All of these were designed to bless the use of the animals and to remove danger and harm. Uh, uh, Whether the animals were sacrificed or not, the ritual would include the blessing the animal and dedicating uh, uh, the animal both to God, to the community, and soliciting God's help in the keeping and in the care of the animals. There were also health rituals, which involved medicine men. This was also practiced on a communal level. And these health rituals were designed to ensure good health, to protect the community from sickness, from disease, from barrenness, to remove impurities, to remove epidemics. And these health rituals have thousands of variations throughout African culture. There's such a link as we study history and sociology and religion. There's an inseparable link between culture and religious practices that we cannot underestimate. And so these were health rituals. They also involved that someone had a miscarriage, or someone had difficulty in birth. The medicine man would engage in these health and healing rituals. And then there were the annual festivals. And these annual festivals, as I mentioned earlier, included rites of passage. It's very interesting that in the Hebrew Bible, there are also annual festivals as well. So as we look at African religion, we see difference, but we also see there's also universality as well when it comes to religious practice. There's so much that we hold in common. Although we are culturally different, There's so much that we hold in common. That's the point that we want to make in all of this here. There's so much that we all hold in common, and everybody has something to contribute. Everyone has historical wisdom and sacred knowledge from the past that everybody, no matter where you come from, can agree upon and benefit. And so there are birth rituals, there are initiation rituals, there are, for example, when you know when someone begins to take on the role of a chief, when the father has passed away, now the son is getting ready to take that position. There are rituals, there are religious rituals involved. It's very similar to how, let's say, for example, in the United States, even when, even though the Congress is secular, as we define it, notice how when they swear in the congressmen and congresswomen, that they swear, they hold their hand up and they swear on the Bible, because the idea is that this is not only sacred, but there's a religious element to this as well, that we all respect. And so there are birth festivals when someone is born into the world, initiation, marriages, funerals, uh, victories in battle, uh, coronations, accession, fertility festivals, just to name a few, hunting and fishing and planting festivals, that are all religious in nature. And in these festivals, they wore masks. Many people, they see that the African mask and the African architecture, they say, well, that's demonic because it comes from African religion. No, these all have spiritual meaning. There's wisdom behind it all. So they wear masks. They engage in dancing. They engage in feasting. They engage in sacrifice and in offerings. They engage in prayers and blessings. And so this is what this is what African religion upholds. And in this book, the Introduction to African Religion, similar to how we have in the Hebrew Bible, the book of Proverbs, there are many African proverbs, I don't care where you're from in the world, that most would agree with and find wisdom. Let me just read just a few. An African proverb, and he has in this book he has over 100 African proverbs, 119 to be exact, proverbs in this book, African Religions. Okay, this is one from Kenya. A bird in the hand is more valuable than two in the woods. You thought that many people thought that was an American concept. No, that came from out of Africa. That whole concept. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. This was another one. Sleep killed the lion. That's an ancient religious proverb. And there's so much to unpack there. I'm not going to even try to explain that to you. Sleep killed the lion. This is another proverb from Kenya. Little by little fills up the bowl. That's the concept, one day at a time, one step at a time. Okay. In Burundi, this is a proverb. The creature is not greater than its creator. Isn't that interesting? The forest has ears. And in other words, a lot of times people think that they're by themselves and nobody hears, nobody's watching, nobody's listening, but that may not always be the case. Uh, all right. This is one from Azania. The strength of the crocodile is in the water. In other words, everyone has their own place. Uh, this is another from Burundi. God knows the things of tomorrow. And this is one from Uganda. A full stomach does not last overnight. Uh, in other words, you'll have to eat again. And the idea is uh, that we have all of our blessings we have them for today. There are more blessings for tomorrow. This is one from Nigeria. Children confer glory on a home. Children confer glory on a home. It's very similar to the idea that the Christian concept, out of the mouth of babes and sucklings, the Lord has perfected praise. And so that concludes our lecture series. I encourage you for further study to get the book, The Introduction to African Religion by John S. Mbiti. And you'll find a lot of wisdom in there. And you'll find that no matter where you are in the world, there's wisdom. When we are exclusive and think that all wisdom comes from within our culture and our religious experience, then we lose much. We lose much. So I just want to encourage you to get the professor's John S. Mbiti's book, Introduction to African Religion. Thank you so much for being a part of this experience, this lecture series. I do apologize, but we're not able to get these to you before the close of Black History Month. But nonetheless, I know you'll benefit and that you will gain much from this lecture series. Thank you so much. And we have your emails and we'll keep you posted on what we have coming next. Thanks again.